Hi there, I'm Frank Crenshaw. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about something that I have a lot of opinion on, and that's modeling basics, or basic modeling. Recently, a friend of mine showed me an article that was written by a guy, I believe he was new to modeling. Anyway, it was cross-posted in another blog, where the author's basic assertion was that basics modeling is some sort of a manufactured and derogatory way that older modelers use to hold and keep newer modelers back, and that the dialogue isn't helpful, and blah blah blah. And I got to tell you, it was literally one of the dumbest things I've ever read. So I think I'm just going to put my thoughts on basic modeling down, so that if I ever want to express them, I can just link it. Now, to me, I've been around modeling a while, and basics modeling has been a part of modeling basically since I've been involved with IPMS. It's something that I was introduced to very early, and it's something that I know well. Basic modeling is anything but a demeaning activity. Basic modeling comes from the IPMS contest, though. Now, if you're not interested in IPMS contests and you just want to build for yourself and you don't care what anybody else thinks, you don't really need to listen to anybody's thoughts on basic modeling. Because it doesn't really matter. Literally, if you don't care about contests or being involved in organized activities with other modelers, basics in modeling will never come up. So it might not even affect you. However, if you're like me and you get to a point where you want to interact with other people, where you want to grow, experience, and share, eventually this concept comes up. Now, basic modeling is a way that IPMS manages judging in a contest. Now, how they do it is they ask people who may not know anything about the subject to look at the model and judge things that are judgeable by a modeler, a person who's familiar with modeling, such as this Tamiya Tomcat. Now, this is arguably one of the best kits ever produced. This is the new Tamiya Tomcat M148 scale. Yet I would put to you that this wonder kit still needs basic modeling attention. Now, when you get a whole bunch of people judging a contest and they don't really know what they're looking at, they don't know anything about F-14s or this particular kit, but they do know a lot about modeling, they'll be able to judge basics. And basics are things like, is the model consistent in construction? Does it not have seams? Does it not have, fingerprints in the paint? Does it have, no sink marks? There's a long list of this stuff, but it's all very basic, very simple. It's something that all modelers tend to do. That's why it's called basics, right? If you take care of your modeling basics, then you can move on to other things. This particular kit, this is the best kit money can buy. But if you built it right out of the box and you didn't do anything else to it and you just took it to a contest, let's suppose you bought the new Edward cockpit for it, which I believe is about $40. You threw in another $30 worth of Edward etch, and $20 for a furball decal sheet, and used that super expensive Mr. Paint. You have this incredibly expensive thing. You're looking at a $200 model. No problem. And in your mind, it looks good, and it does. The detail is exquisite on this kit. I mean, it is absolutely exquisite. It's just a gorgeous model. But what you might not notice, in your rush to get it done, is there is a seam, a mold separation seam, running right along there, on both sides, this side and this side. And that seam is on every single print of this kit. Now, fixing it is quite simple. I mean, you take a sanding stick and you rub it and it's gone. But if you don't do that, if you ignore that seam, when you paint it, that seam shows up, and it shows up very, very visibly. You can't miss it. And guess who else won't miss it? The judges. So you run this $200 wonder kit to the contest, and and in the meantime you went ahead and bought another $30 set of Edward missiles, and you literally have the best kit money can buy, and you painted it with the best paint money can buy, and you used your $400 custom Micron, and you got your I'm a modeler shirt on, and you're just waiting for the award ceremony because you're just sure you nailed it, and you don't place, and you're wondering why the hell you didn't place. So you go up to some old guy and you ask him, "Hey, what happened? What's going on here?" And he looks at you and said, "Well, you got a seam. Maybe you should focus on your basics some there, son. Sorry about that." Well, of course, you're going to get all butthurt. You're going to get on the internet and go complain in your favorite news group about how your amazing F-14 just lost out to a tester's F-18 that was boring and wasn't even weathered, and it's an outrage, and these old guys are trying to hold you back. And no, that's not what's going on. What's going on is you failed to understand that modeling basics is important to IPMS. So when you hear basics first, it is all about the contest in IPMS building. If you don't enter a contest, it doesn't matter. And if you're okay with these kind of seams, these janky seams sitting around on your model, you don't even need to pay attention to basics first. I mean, if you want to build models with these flaws in them, go ahead. No one cares. I don't care. So, elevators. Tamiya, they entered these pinholes in the back, and I'm not exactly sure why these are there. I think these are there to help eliminate sink marks in the cooling process, but I'm not sure. I don't really know why they're there, but they are quite deep. They go almost to the surface of the plastic. They have a strange reaction to the plastic, though, and it is not visible. I'm sitting here looking at this, and I can't see it. I can sort of see it right there, and right there. But I happen to know from experience that when I paint these, those things jump out like a sore thumb. I mean, suddenly I have these 6 different round stamps all over my Eleveron, and those aren't on the real one. And again, the judges can see them. So that's why basics first is mentioned by modelers. Where this can come into to play is like when somebody's talking about a review. Someone will pull up a kit that isn't very good, and they'll start talking about this kit, and they'll say maybe it's recommended, but it does need some basic modeling. And this just causes people to lose their freaking minds. I for the life of me don't understand this, but all that says to me is the kit has some issues that are fixed with putty and sanding. I'm going to give you an example. This is a Kitty Hawk SU-34 fullback. And in case you hadn't heard, Kitty Hawk's a bit of a lightning rod, especially to a certain group of individuals, and one in particular. All you got to do is say nice things about Kitty Hawk, and he's liable to say all kinds of bad things about you. And apparently I'm the biggest dickhead on the internet because I think these kits are buildable. So none of that matters, though. What matters is that here you have a SU-34, and this SU-34 happens to be the best SU-34 in the scale. Hobby Boss makes one, but it's got a really funky nose. I would much rather build a kit that's accurate in shape, that takes a little bit of basics first modeling, than one that's completely screwed to pooch in shape. But as you can see, this particular kit has some just built-in gotchas. The fact that they molded the wings separate, right? Whether it's dumb or smart or whatever, that's a reality. So you're going to have to fix this if you want to build this kit. Or you can take your chances and do like the instructions say and put the wings on afterward. But I'm going to give you a clue. If you do that, it's going to ruin your model. So don't do that. Don't follow the instructions when building this kit. You have to use them as a guideline and basically build your own instructions. Basics first. Now, if you follow that theory, you're going to wind up with a very, very genuinely nice fit, and it won't look bad. It'll look quite natural, and much ado about nothing. So when somebody says, yeah, a little basics fix it, that's all they're talking about. They're not saying you're a bad modeler or you're stupid, or, they're just saying, most people who are somewhat experienced with putty and a sanding stick can easily get over any perceived engineering flaw. There you go. Basics first. This is that particular Kitty Hawk kit. Not the exact same one. This is the SU-35. In construction. It's actually a pretty nice kit at this point, but I did have to spend a lot of work on it. If you look at my wing seams here, right here, you can see that there's no visible flaw. Well, and that's because I followed my own advice and I used basics modeling to make sure I put this kit together in a correct way. There were sink marks all over the tail, all over this tail here, all over the rudder. All of that had to be fixed. Sink marks in the leading edge of this, sink marks in the leading edge here, both sides, and these flaps. All of that had to be fixed. Now, it's true these kits are harder to build than, say, your Tamiya kit, right? I mean, that kind of effort is work, but it's not like skilled effort. It's not like scratch building or even fitting aftermarket. It's putty and sanding and pre-planning. This is not advanced modeling. This is very basic modeling. But it's crucial that you do that. Here's another good example. These are the weapons pylons from this very SU-35 kit. These weapons pylons were just completely covered, and you can see them because I haven't painted them yet. They were completely covered in those sink marks, and they were terrible, terrible deep sink marks. It took me several times of puttying, sanding, and rescribing, and then repeating to get all these sink marks out. So this kit, even though, it takes a little basic, it's hard to build. And anybody who will admit that that's the truth. This is much harder to build than a Tamiya kit. But Tamiya doesn't build an SU-35, so I have to either use this Kitty Hawk kit or the Great Wall kit. Now the Great Wall kit might be better. That's irrelevant to the discussion. But the status of the kit really is less important than the philosophy of basics first. Even the really nice Tamiya kits have flaws in them that if you do not address them, you will not do well in a contest. If not doing well in a contest is irrelevant to you, that's perfectly okay. But I think you should understand, and you should take a few minutes to understand, that basics first modeling is not about, demeaning somebody. It's about basically setting a baseline for building. Even if you don't want to enter a contest, if you follow basics first modeling, you will build better models. You will definitely build better models, simply because if you take the time to fill all those little flaws, fill all those little gaps, do all that, even on your Tamiya kits, you will have a much more satisfying result in the end. And when some old guy walks up to you and says, "Hey, great basics," maybe you'll be happy instead of pissed off that he told you needed to focus on them. I don't know. But anyway, that's just my thoughts. Thanks for listening.